All right, well, we are here today with Amber Galjour. She is a study abroad advisor over at LSU with a HSS background. So thank you so much, Amber, for taking the time out of your Friday to kind of just discuss your career path and any advice or tips you might have for current HSS students. And so to jump right into this, my first question for you is, what has your career path looked like thus far?
Oh, that's the fun thing about having an HSS background. You can kind of take as many career shifts as you'd like. I graduated from LSU with a degree in sociology and political science and moved to Melbourne, Australia for my master's. Part of my master's was an internship in the Department of Education over there, and it rolled into a job, rolled into 6 years of working for the State Department in policy review and internal auditing. Um, it wasn't at all what I thought I was going to college for, but just became a very fast-paced, um, crazy intense work environment. And I'd say about mid last year, I was like, I want to go back to Louisiana. What are my skill sets? The state government in America is different than the state government in Australia. What transferable skills do I have? And I was like, I'm an LSU alum and I've lived and studied abroad. Reached out to LSU APA and was like, hey, do you have anything for me? And they were like, absolutely, like, come back. So now I've done a career 180. I've been in this role for about 6 months now. It's fun. It's not stressful at all. I do love how interactive this is with students. My previous job, I could go days, even weeks without having a meeting because it was very siloed and it was very independent work and everything was very black and white. Working in student recruitment and advising and study abroad is just very fun and it's colorful and um, it's definitely a 180 from where my career path was to where I am right now.
I think that's really cool, like talking about the transferability of maybe your academic background, and how like you really focus on the skills that you're gaining in the classes and like in your experiences outside that they can help you to translate to the things that might fit your values a little bit more. And so with that, it kind of leads me to our second question of how do you feel that your HSS degree prepared you for the workforce? What kind of skills or things do you feel like you were really prepared for because of having that HSS background?
Um, I think the diversification in HSS, if you're a humanities major, it's like definitely pick up a minor. It doesn't have to be within the college or without, but I feel like every single minor can complement your major in one way or another, no matter which humanities field you choose. And I think that prepared me the most because the HSS degree audit is so different from the other colleges' degree audits that you kind of have to like pick and choose things between, you know, history and past politics and like forward thinking and current like statistics and evaluations. Just you get like a modge podge of so many different disciplines with whatever degree you choose in HSS. Um, that it kind of gives you more creative energy to think like, well, I really excelled at this class. Like, does that mean like I should be working with policy, or does that mean I should be working with um statistics and qualitative research? Like there's HSS lets you like dip your toe in so many different ponds that when you go into the workforce, especially things that are project based, you already have enough experience and enough insight in each of those topics to kind of like jump in and know kind of what's going on. I found that's what helped me the most out of my master's, which was also a humanities degree. So I feel like knowing just enough to step your foot in and then just running with it is what helps getting an HSS bachelor's.
That's great perspective of like the diversification of HSS. It like you're being a well-rounded intellect and just human. Like you're getting so many skills in communication, the research, the
Absolutely.
critical
Yeah.
thinking. I mean, it's it's everywhere in what we look at in career industry, and so many different paths like are looking for that diversification.
Mhm.
So I think that's one of the amazing things with the college itself and the degree programs is like you said, you have very unique classes and unique
Yep.
paths that like you can really explore a lot of different interests that you maybe never thought of in like high school or in experiences prior. One question I like to ask our alumni is in thinking about your time as an LSU student, do you remember any classes that you found to just be particularly helpful or just really fun classes to take?
Um, oh gosh. I was pre-law whenever I was at LSU, and I was like dead set on um going to LSU law school. And my second summer before graduation, I did LSU in Paris, and like definitely the funnest classes ever. Like those 6 hours overseas were fantastic. But I moved back and realized like I needed more time abroad. And that kind of changed my last 2 semesters at LSU into choosing like classes that would have had to be taken to go to law school versus like things that I was just told to be more interested in. Um, with that shift, I stepped away from like more 4,000 level poli sci classes and went into more upper level criminology focused classes. Um, Not too far off from each other because they still study like law and order. But just one was like way more like legal and regulatory, and one was more a bit more about like the human psychology behind like why people do what they do. So um I think having experiences and choosing a path that you think like take the classes that you think are the most interesting, and it will come to something. Like it will eventually come to a job that you're supposed to be in. Am I making sense?
Absolutely. I mean, I sound like a broken record, but I repetitively say that choosing a major is not choosing a career, primarily for that exact same reason of with any given career that you choose or any given major that you choose, there's so many different things that you can do with it, just naturally based off of like what your interests are and your value and your personality and just your skills. I mean, combining all of that, like that sweet like middle spot is what we would like, define as our
Yeah.
career. And so like the things that we want students to do is to study the things that we enjoy and that we like because staying up and studying at 2 a.m. for something that you barely kind of tolerate versus something that you're interested in
It's
are
not
two
worth
very
it.
different things. And so it's really making sure that you're maximizing not only your academic experience, but your co-curricular experience as well.
Yeah.
And so when you were in college as an undergrad, did you get involved in like any student organizations, or do you remember taking any part-time jobs or doing research on campus that you found to really just help you after college when you were applying for jobs or even when you were applying to grad school?
Oh, absolutely. I was part of a few student orgs in a sorority, but my most eye-opening like aha moment was a poli sci internship. It was through BRPD. It was lovely and insane and eye-opening at the same time. This was right before I did my study abroad in Paris. So at the time I still thought I was like pre-law. I wanted like insight to like everything because Louisiana was the only world that I knew and the only world that I wanted to keep at the time. But it was shocking and it was very raw. And I had a fantastic professor who was like my go-to and like graded all my like weekly reports and my final paper on it. And Dr. Martin was just very hands-on with like making sure I got all the little nooks and crannies out of the experience and not just like, did you show up on time? Did you do what they asked you to do? But more of like, okay, what are you seeing like patterns of? Like, why do you think that's happening? Like, I one of my managers that I reported to went on extended leave for burnout. And that was just something we like discussed. Like, is that where you see yourself in a few years? Like, why do you think she burned out? Like, what do you think she could have done to prevent it? So I was just blessed to have a cool experience, but also have like a faculty member that was willing to like do this, like just sit and talk about it so that I could start thinking of things in different ways, which having that experience and then studying abroad and then coming back and realizing like LSU law prepares you for being an a Louisiana state lawyer, all of that together was like, wait, I need to take a step back and figure out what I really want to do after graduation. And I think every HSS major is going to feel that at some point in their academic career. Because you go in from high school with like, I'm going to graduate on this date with this degree and I'm going to this grad school or I'm going to get this job. But um, you have so much agency in an HSS degree. It's not engineering where you're starting to be ABET accredited and to become an engineer or get into vet school and become a veterinarian. Like there's no title that's going to be given to you when you graduate from the College of Humanities. But I think it's liberating because you can go out and find like what title best fits you, you know?
I love the way that you phrase that. I think I really liked how you talk about with like that internship opportunity of how like again you really maximize that and like having like the conversations and like it's not just the showing up on time, doing the assignments, getting those full hours every week, but really thinking about how an internship is defined as experiential learning of helping students to figure out before going into something full time, is this something that I see myself doing? Is this aligning with what I thought I want to do? Or even sometimes figuring out, no, this isn't what
Yeah.
I want to do. And I think when we talk to students who might be discouraged by doing something and realizing, I think my path is changing, that's still positive information to have because okay, I tried this, I've experienced this, I now know I think I'm being drawn towards this other area.
I love
Because
that. I'm gonna start borrowing that,
yes,
Allison.
please do.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
good
it's so
news. It's just one
important.
less option that you have to choose from. Yeah.
Exactly. We all have interests that are very diverse and things that might be hobbies or things that we might like in one industry but not the other. So you start figuring that out through those experiences. So I'm really glad you mentioned that opportunity with that professor and how that mentorship also helped you to think more critically about, okay, for my actual experience in my future career, do I see this as something that I want to do? Like thinking about the personal narrative outside of what maybe you're just doing in the internship. So I love that. All right. So are you ready for the last question?
Oh yeah.
All right. So my last question, Amber, is what career advice do you wish you received when you were in college?
Oh Lordy. I did think about this a few days ago whenever we talked about the interview. Um, and I don't think there was anything anyone else could have said to me that would have um helped or changed my path. I just wish I could go back to myself and be more open-minded. Um, and I don't think if someone gave me that as advice, like, hey, like wherever you end up is where you're supposed to be, or like listen to your intuition, or if your plan blows up and you want to change paths, like it's okay, you have time. If anyone had given me that advice in undergrad, I probably wouldn't have taken it. But I wish I would have been more forgiving to myself when I came back from Paris and I knew I wanted to live abroad for some period of time. And I was, studying for the LSAT and then like literally woke up one morning and shut the book and was like, I'm not taking this test. And I hated myself for it. And I wish I could go back and be like, look, it's okay to still be figuring things out. Um, so like if any students watch this video and they're getting advice left and right and nothing's really sticking, like just be patient with yourself. and be intuitive. Like whatever you're drawn to, there's probably something there that you're going to be really good at. So follow it.
I love that. I think sometimes like we get advice and it goes in one ear out the other, but I think I really like how you said like just forgiving when life changes and they're like it's okay for things to not go according to plan because plans change every day.
Hmm.
Um, and so I really appreciate your time, Amber, and just kind of sharing your story, your experience, because not only from my own personal experience, but in working with students, I really find that hearing from an actual person who has been through an HSS program, who has been on the other side of that graduation stage and can talk about how there are things that we don't see in a moment, but we see kind of looking back. And sharing that with students, I think is just so valuable because it really is just trying to help them understand that it's okay to still be exploring and that what you're doing in your courses and in your experience as an LSU student will truly have an impact with where you want to
A
go
hundred
after
percent.
graduation. And
Yeah.
so thank you again so much for your time. This has been amazing. So thank you, Amber.
Thank you so much.